Back here on Radio Row between Army and Navy, getting ready for the big game tomorrow. And now joining us is someone that joined us when we were here in Philadelphia 2 years ago. He's a college football analyst for CBS Sports Network, the former UCLA player and coach, and that, of course, is Rick Neuheisel. Rick, great to see you. How are you?
I am well. How are you doing?
Doing great. So, first off, in our area, we all know very well Chip Kelly for his run with the Philadelphia Eagles, and he's not a popular person in Philadelphia, to say the least. But
he was at one time, though.
Yeah, but when he had the 10-win season and then after the playoff loss to the Saints, not many positive things I could say about him. But Chip is now going to take over UCLA. Your reaction when you heard that news?
I'm excited. As the old UCLA guy, I think for two reasons. I think Chip's stuff works at the collegiate level. His record at Oregon speaks for itself. It was a phenomenal run. I wondered about it at the NFL level, given the restriction in roster sizes and so forth, and the buy-in of some of the nutritional stuff that he was trying to get guys to jump on board with. But that being said, it also signals that UCLA is willing to basically finance their expectations, not only because of what they paid Chip to come, but also what they've agreed to pay his staff and what they're agreeing to do from a development standpoint, nutritionally, strength and conditioning. Those are the kind of things where I think we were behind while I was there and even before I was there. And now maybe we can fight fire with fire as we try to compete for championships in the Pac-12.
I know he's a big name and he knows the Pac-12 very well. But if you had to give him some advice, knowing the university, what advice would you give him as a coach?
Make sure that you get what you want before you sign the contract.
Too late now.
Before, it's more difficult. You know, listen, state schools have rules, regulations, and budgets that are not infinite. And that's all well and fine. No one makes excuses. But when your task is to beat schools that don't necessarily have all those restrictions, then you got to be really creative in how to get that done. And I think Chip is very aware of what he's signed on for.
We all know this time of the year there is a lot of change in this business with college coaches,
right? And
some pretty big ones. We talk about Chip going to UCLA, but then Jimbo Fisher taking over the Texas A&M job, Willie Taggart after 1 year at Oregon going to FSU. Just some more reaction on those two moves because the Jimbo move, if you would have told me that going into this year, I would have said, hey, Jimbo's probably going to be the coach at Florida State for a very long time.
How many people in the United States of America could say no to anything they're offered $75 million to do, as long as it's legal, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's an enormous life-changing amount of money. And, you know, he was at a place where he'd won a national championship. He was at a place where over the course of this year there was frustration by the fan base that resulted in him catcalling from the stands or from the field to somebody in the stands and fight back and forth. And I think sometimes coaches, we set such high bars for ourselves if we have great seasons, right? That the expectation is you're supposed to have that season every year. And if you don't, then there's this reaction. And it's natural, but as the person feeling the reaction, you go, wait a minute, didn't you remember the stuff that we did before? And while it may not be appropriate to have that feeling, it's there nonetheless. And given that, I think it's sometimes healthy to go someplace new and have a new perspective, have people who are excited about what's going to happen in their program as now you're the leader of it. And I think that's the case. And not to mention you've got financial security for your lifetime. So it makes a lot of sense. But it's a risky move because Florida State has won national championships. It's been a long time since the Aggies have. And just because you're cashing a big check doesn't necessarily mean you've got everything you need to win national championships. And the pressure that will come now that you're cashing those big checks will be real.
There's an abundance of good coaches now in college football that are especially younger coaches. You see Tom Herman.
We think they're good coaches.
Mm-hmm. But Tom Herman, Matt Rhule, I think are good coaches.
There's only 4 guys that won a national championship out of 130 schools.
Sure.
And yet, so we assume that based on, Tom Herman was a coach at Houston for 2 years. I mean, I'm going to tell you right now, you're as good as your players, right? It's not X's and O's. It's
and had a good quarterback in Greg Ward.
He had Greg Ward Jr., and he was playing at the Group of 5 level. Now he's at the Power 5 level, and he's at a platform that can certainly take him off to great things. But if he gets guys hurt, he could find himself in the same situation that Charlie Strong found himself in with hurt fellas, and all of a sudden the expectations of a $5 million a year job got too big, and they ended up making a decision after 3 seasons. Tom Herman, after 1 year, is 6-6. Charlie Strong, after 1 year, was 6-6. He ended up getting beat in Arkansas in the bowl game. So we'll wait and see what happens with Texas. But that's the reality. To think that you're all of a sudden, because you're getting that much money and you're going to a prominent place like Texas, that all of a sudden you've affixed a cape to your back and you've got all the answers, that isn't exactly reality.
Yeah, I take it from the perspective of seeing them in the American, where we cover Temple, and we know Matt Rhule very well.
Right.
And he's in a tough spot at Baylor. It's a tough job to go to with everything going on. What do you see for the future of Matt Rhule at Baylor?
Well, there's a guy who did a great job at Temple, so we're assuming that he can do that again at Baylor. But no one would have thought they would win 1 game.
Yeah,
at
that's
Baylor.
true. It's a bad loss.
I mean, that's 1-11. So if he goes 3-9 next year, while he's got a 7-year deal, are Baylor fans going to be saying this is our guy?
Now, patience will run very
because
thin.
this was a team that not so long ago was 11-1 on the cusp of a college football playoff berth until it all unraveled. Now, it's easy to point at the unraveling as the reason, and that will last for a while. But ultimately, the job to get them back up into 8, 9, 10 wins is a tough, arduous task because of all the recruiting issues that have happened because of what's happened on the outside. Matt Rhule, at his best at Temple, what did he win? 10 games?
2 back-to-back 10-win seasons.
10-win seasons,
yeah,
right?
And the American.
With senior-laden team.
Sure.
And in the American, that is not the same schedule as you have in a Big 12 conference. So we'll wait and see. Great that he got the opportunity, just like Justin Fuente took the Memphis job to Virginia Tech, and things look like things are going well there. Those are great opportunities, and they deserve them.
But you got to prove more.
But you just don't know that that's going to translate. Brett Bielema was probably a great hire when he went to Arkansas. He had taken 3 teams to the Rose Bowl at Wisconsin. He's out. Kevin Sumlin was a great choice from the University of Houston,
no question.
The American Conference, at 12-1 with Case Keenum as his quarterback. Year 1 at Texas A&M, there's Johnny Manziel getting a Heisman Trophy. His stock went through the roof, over $5 million per. He's out. It's just not as easy as it looks.
Do you want to get back into coaching eventually?
I miss coaching. I miss the relationships with the players. I miss the game planning with the coaches. I miss the winning and losing and the pressure that goes in trying to be better than the opponent on game day. But I'm very happy doing what I'm doing. And I realize, having just explained what the expectations are, that if someone comes to me and says, hey, you're the guy to take us and here's how we're going to get there, and they're willing to finance the expectations, which I say UCLA is finally now willing to do, then I'm in. If not, I like my seat right now.
Rick Neuheisel with us right now, Army-Navy Radio Row, brought to you by USAA. This game, Army and Navy, what does it mean to you?
Well, it's a terrific football game. I respect the 2 coaches with everything. They're X and O guys, and it's old-fashioned. The triple option, the midline, the veer, the speed option, and all the intricacies that go with that, and the defensive adjustments to try to take it all away. It's the ultimate cat and mouse game because they're restricted by who they can get into school. They're not going to have the big dominant offensive line, so they have to play triple option run offense football. So from an X and O, it's a unique game and it's fun to watch. But it's bigger than that, and I think we all know that's why we kind of look forward to this game and why the game has its own stage on its own Saturday at the end of a college football season, because it's about a bunch of kids who have made a commitment not only to themselves and to their respective academies, they've made a commitment to our country. And as we watch the game and poll, whether your grandfather was an Army guy or a Navy guy or what have you, right, and we poll and we all have our favorites, at game's end, we sit there and we salute all of them because we realize, especially in the world we live in today and all the turbulent things going on and how small our world's become because of all the proliferation of whether it's arms or media or what have you, you have a very unstable situation that these guys are raising their hand, says, choose me, I want to go in there. That, to me, says everything about these young people and why they deserve our attention and why they deserve our salute when the game's over as to, hey, thanks for letting us wear red, white, and blue on a yearly basis.
No question. You couldn't have said it better than anyone. Before we let you run, Rick Neuheisel, let's just incorporate one NFL point in here. The Philadelphia Eagles, they've been red hot in it. They just had the loss to the Seattle Seahawks, but now they play a Rams team, which McVay has been unbelievable at 31 years old. Jared Goff coming into his own in year number 2, and you have Carson Wentz from North Dakota State playing MVP type of football. There's a lot of good storylines in this one. And we didn't even mention Todd Gurley going up against the 68 rushing yards per game Philadelphia Eagles defense. This could be a special one coming up on Sunday.
It's going to be a great game, and if you're a football fan, you're going to tune in. I remember it wasn't so long ago we were being asked questions about Wentz or Goff,
Yep.
one or two. It turns out both were right. I think they're both fantastic talents, and it's great for the game. And hopefully NFL teams are watching how these two quarterbacks got incorporated into their offenses, because it wasn't just about doing, hey, you're going to do what we do here in our playbook, but they incorporated some of their playbook with them. And I think that's why you're seeing such a return on the investment in this early time.
Being able to be around Wentz almost every day at the NovaCare Complex and covering the Eagles, it's just amazing, like what you're saying. He's implementing plays from North Dakota State, and they're working for touchdowns in the NFL.
Right.
Just that freedom and the way that he's able to read the defense, making that adjustment from FCS football, and coming in to the NFL, and in his second year to play this well and have also the command of the locker room as someone that's 24, it's unbelievable.
Both these kids, I know Goff well. I got
Tell me
to
a little
meet
bit
him.
about him.
He's a great kid, selfless kid. It's about team. He's not about himself, and certainly that's the way Carson Wentz has carried himself too. I saw that special on ESPN about the Dutch destroyer. I'm sitting, it tore my heart out.
I was sobbing.
But that's what is special about these guys. And when you are going to have a franchise player, you want that person to have all the different attributes that great leaders have. And both these kids, in my mind, have that, which means it's not about me. It's about how to incorporate everybody else so that we can be the best. And I think everybody, even though they're young, admires that about them. And I think we're going to see this rivalry between two really, really talented players be one for the ages.
Well, one thing I know, it's definitively that you are a great guest, my friend, here
I
on Radio
appreciate it,
Row.
my friend.
We appreciate it. Great to see Rick Neuheisel. We'll
now.
take a break, and we'll be back right after this on Radio Row.